Hello and welcome to another edition of another book review. This week I'll be reviewing How to Write a Dynamite Scene using the Snowflake Method by Randy Ingermanson. I'll talk very briefly about the author, go into an overview of what the book is, talk about what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, who I'd recommend the book to, and finish off with what I'll be reading for next time. Randy Ingermanson is an author I've reviewed in the past. I reviewed his book, How to Write a Novel Using the Snowflake Method. This book is in some ways a sequel to that. I'll have my link to that video below if you want to check more about Randy Ingermanson. You can watch that video. Long story short, he is a writer who's written some works of Christian fiction as well as science fiction, and this is probably his most famous work is the How to Write a Novel Using the Snowflake Method, which is his outlining method. This book, How to Write a Scene Using this Dynamite Scene Using the Snowflake Method, is basically taking one step of the Snowflake Method, how to write scenes, and expanding that into, I think it's about 300 pages on the ebook, so I'm not quite sure how many pages it would be on a regular book, but it's 330 pages or so on the ebook. And what it is exactly what it says on the tin. It's his explanation of what makes a scene, what are the crucial parts of the scene, what you need to know going into a scene to make it effective. And the book is mostly geared towards novel writers, but it also is something that can be used for people who are doing screenwriting. I think it is really good for beginners. I do like the fact that he goes very, very quickly, but very, very effectively over the different tenses as far as past, present, future, as well as the different first, second, third person and the different variations on that. I think that he does a good job of kind of explaining in his own language what other writers have described as scenes and sequels, or proactive or reactive scenes, the different parts of those. So I thought that part was really effective. And he also has a chapter on, once you've written something that's not working, is there a way back to go back into it and see how to fix that, and include all the parts of it that weren't working on your original scene to make sure you're writing something that's going to be propulsive and you're writing something to get to your readers interested. And kind of the motto or the kind of mission statement of the book is every one of your scenes in of itself should be a miniature story. And by that he means your character should go through something where they're facing a difficulty, which he calls a crucible, and they have to, in a proactive scene, react to that struggle and either succeed or fail, which sets them up for a reactive scene, which is where they are reassessing and coming to a decision from a dilemma from the setback of the first scene. That's essentially what the book is in a nutshell. And I think it's clearly written. It's, I think, a very, very easy read in a very similar way to the Snowflake Method. If there's some things I didn't like about it as much, he does use some examples from famous novels. He pulls scenes from The Godfather, from The Hunger Games, and from Outlander. And I think those are used to good effect. I do wish he had used other examples from different genres. I think he could have used some examples to show the different tenses, the different writing styles, even if he's just pulling out, paragraphs to show how different authors can use first person, second person, or third person effectively. I thought that would have been a nice touch. He also has a chapter in there on a situation where he fixed one of his own scenes in a book that he co-authored. In that section of it didn't really work particularly effectively for me, and I don't know the best way to have gone about going about that to fix a scene in terms of if it's a proactive or a reactive scene. But that kind of this chunk that he used to where he explained how he and his co-author sat down to talk about part of their story that wasn't working and why it wasn't working and how to fix it. It felt to me more like a plot issue than anything else, and so it felt really kind of tacked on. I think it would have been cool if he had maybe pulled out a scene that he didn't think worked in another book, but I don't know if that would have been considered gauche to comment on the work of another author. I'm not quite sure if that's why he didn't do it, but I thought that would have been a way to illustrate that. But overall, I think it's a good book for beginners. I think if you're someone who's just getting into learning about writing, I think there's a lot in here that's very easy to pick up, very easy to understand, and I think he does a good job of breaking things down to their basic parts to make it easy for someone just getting into writing to understand it. With that, there maybe not be a ton of depth if you're coming to a fork in the road. I don't know how often you would go back to this and say, well, let's see here, is there a way, is there something that can get me past this roadblock? Like I said, the fixing part where he kind of fixes his scene, to me, is one of the weaker parts of the novel. So I do think it's good for beginners. I don't know how often people would come back to this if they're past the stage in writing, if they're looking for something more advanced, I guess, is the way to say it. So that's who I recommend it for, but I do think it's worth picking up just to get an understanding of some basics of, first person, second person, third person tenses, what makes a scene effective, how you can use this to kind of propel the story forward in kind of a try-fail cycle type of way, if that's what you want to do. The problems I have with it are similar to the Snowflake Method in that I don't know how much it applies to someone who's doing literary fiction or maybe non-genre fiction, how it really fits into that. But that is How to Write a Dynamite Scene by Randy Ingermanson. Next time I'm going to be still working my way through The Dawn of Everything, and I'm also going to be reviewing DMZ, the comic book series, so that will probably be up first as my review of DMZ. Until next time, if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and I'll go ahead and have the link below to the original review I did for how to write a novel using the Snowflake Method. If you caught this and want to know more about Randy Ingermanson, that's really, I would recommend anybody who's coming to this video first, really go back and check out that, because that's really his outlining method. And I think that book is really, I think, instructive if someone who's interested in writing wants to learn if your mind works analytically in a step-by-step basis, how to write a Snowflake Method, I think, is really effective this. And I think this book is effective as well, but it's, I think, more of a niche book, and I also think that some of this stuff you may inherently know already, or you may just not be able to vocalize it. So there's some stuff here that I think is useful for beginners, but yeah. So check out those if you're interested, and until next time, bye.